Hello everyone. So yes, we are done with Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secret, and today we're moving on to Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So this is the picture. This is the Prisoner of Azkaban, where it's the wizard prison. I'm gonna give it too much away, but I'm gonna read it. Chapter 1. Owl Post. Harry Potter was a highly unusual boy in many ways. For one thing, he hated the summer holiday more than any other time of year. For another, he really wanted to do his homework, but was forced to do it in secret, in the dead of night. And he also happened to be a wizard. It was nearly midnight, and he was lying in front of his bed, the blanket drawn right over his head like a tent, a torch in one hand, and a large leather-bound book, A History of Magic by Bathilda Backshot, prop against his bed, the blanket drawn right over its head like a tent, a torch in one hand, and a large leather-bound book. A History of Magic by Bathilda Backshot. Prop against pillow. Harry moved the tip of the eagle feather quill down the page, frowning as he looked for something that would help him write his essay. A witch burning in 14th century was completely pointless to discuss. The quill paused on the top of a likely-looking paragraph. Harry pushed his round glass up his nose, moved his torch closer to the book, and read, "Non-magic people, more commonly known as Muggle, were particularly afraid of magic in medieval times, but not very good at recognizing it. On the rare occasion that they did, which a real witch or wizard, burning had no effect whatsoever. The witch or wizard would perform a basic flame freezing charm, and then pretend to shriek with pain while enjoying a gentle tickling sensation. Indeed, the Wendling the weird enjoyed being burned so much that she allowed herself to be caught no fewer than 47 times in various disguise. Harry put his quill between his teeth and reached underneath his pillow for his ink bottle and a roll of parchment. Slowly and very carefully, he unscrewed the ink bottle, dipped his quill into it, and began to write, pausing every now and then to listen, because if any of the Dursley heard the scratching of his quill on the way to the bathroom, he would probably find himself locked in his cupboard understairs for the rest of the summer. The Dursley family of number 4 Private Drive was the reason that Harry never enjoyed this summer holiday. Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia and their son Dudley were Harry's only living relative. They were Muggles. They had a very medieval attitude toward magic. Harry's dead parents, who had been a witch and a wizard themselves, were never mentioned under the Dursley roof. For years, Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon hoped that if they kept Harry as downtrodden as possible, they'd be able to squash the magic out of him. To their fury, they had been unsuccessful, and now live in terror of anyone finding out that Harry had spent most of their last 2 years at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. The most of the Dursley could do these days was to lock Harry's spellbook, wand, cauldron, and broomstick at the start of the summer holiday, and forbid him to talk to the neighbor. This separation from his spellbook had been a real problem for Harry, because his teacher at Hogwarts had given him a lot of holiday work. One of the essay, a particularly nasty one about shrinking potion, was for Harry's least favorite teacher, Professor Snape, who would be delighted to have an excuse to give Harry detention for a month. Harry had therefore seized his chance in the first week of the holiday, while Uncle Vernon and Aunt Bettina and Dudley had gone out in the front garden to admire Uncle Vernon's new company car in a very loud voice, so the rest of the street would notice it too. Harry had crept downstairs, picked up a lock of the cupboard under the stair, grabbed some of his book, and hidden them in his bedroom. As long as he didn't leave a spot of ink on the sheet, the Dursley need never know what he was studying magic by night. Harry had keen was keen to avoid trouble with his uncle at the moment, as they were already in a bad mood with him, all because he received a telephone call from a fellow wizard one weekend school holiday. Ron Weasley was one of Harry's best friends. Hogwarts came from a whole family of wizards. This meant that he knew a lot of things Harry didn't, but never used a telephone before. Most unluckily, it had been Uncle Vernon who had answered the call. Vernon Dursley speaking? Harry, who happened in the room at the time, froze as he heard Ron's voice answer. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? I want to talk to Harry Potter. Ron was yelling so loudly that Uncle Vernon jumped and held the receiver's foot away from his ear, staring at it with an expression of mingled fear and alarm. Who is this? He roared in the direction of the mouthpiece. Who are you? Ron Weasley! Ron blew back as though he and Uncle Vernon were speaking on opposite ends of a football pitch. I'm a friend of Harry from school. Uncle Vernon's small eyes swirled around Harry. It was rooted to the spot. There's no Harry Potter here, he roared, holding the receiver at the arm length, as though frightened it might explode. I don't know what school you're talking about. Never contact me again. Don't you come near my family. And he threw his receiver back on the telephone as if dropping a poisonous spider. The row that had followed had been one of the worst ever. How dare you give this number to people like you? Uncle Vernon roared, spraying Harry with spit. Ron obviously realized that he got Harry in trouble because he hadn't called again. Harry's other best friend from Hogwarts, Hermione Granger, hadn't been in touch either. Harry suspected that Ron had warned Hermione not to call, which was a pity, because Hermione, the clever witch in Harry's years, and Muggle parents, knew perfectly well how to use a telephone, and would probably have enough sense not to say that she went to Hogwarts. So Harry had no word from any of his wizarding friends for 5 long weeks, and this summer was turning out to be almost bad. Almost bad as the last one. There was just one very small improvement. After swearing that he wouldn't use her to send letter to any of her friends, Harry had been allowed to let his owl Hedwig out of night. Uncle Vernon had given in because of the racket Hedwig would make if she locked in her cage all the time. And he finished writing about Wetland the Weird and paused to listen again. The silence in the dark house was broken only by the distant crunchy snore of his enormous cousin Dudley. It must be very late. Harry's eyes were itching with tiredness. Perhaps he'd finish his essay tomorrow night. He placed the top of his ink bottle, pulled an old pillowcase from under his bed, with a torch, a history magic, his essay quill and ink inside it, got out of bed, and hid the lot under the loose floorboard under his bed. Then he stood up, stretched, and checked the time on the luminous alarm on his bedside table. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. His stomach gave a funny jolt. He had been at 13 years old without realizing it for the whole hour. Yet another unusual thing about Harry was how little he looked forward to his birthday. He had never received a birthday card in his life. The Dursley completely ignored him his last 2 birthdays. He had no reason to suppose they would remember this one. Harry walked across the dark room past Hedwig's large empty cage to open a window. He leant on the cool night air pleasant on his face after a long time under the blanket. Hedwig had been absent for 2 nights now. Harry wasn't worried about her. She'd been gone this long before, but he hoped she'd be back soon. She was the only living creature in his house who didn't filch at the sight of him. Harry, though still rather small, skinny for his age, had grown a few inches over the last year. His jet black hair, however, just as it always had been, stubbornly untidy. whatever he did to it. The eyes behind his glass was bright green, and on his forehead, clearly visible through his hair, was a thin scar shaped like a bolt of lightning. Of all the unusual thing about Harry, this scar was the most extraordinary of all. It was not, as Dursley had pretended for 10 years, a sovereign of a car crash had killed Harry's parents, because Lily and James Ford had not died in a car crash. They had been murdered by the most feared dark wizard for 100 years, Lord Voldemort. Harry escaped from the sum attack with nothing more than a scar on his forehead. Then, when Voldemort cursed instead of killing him, Harry bound upon its origin or barely alive. Voldemort had fled, but Harry had come face to face with him since at Hogwarts. Remembering their last meetings, he stood at the dark window. Harry had admitted he was lucky even to have reached his 13th birthday. He scanned the starry sky for sign of Hedwig, perhaps soaring back to him with a dead mouse dangling on her beak, expecting praise, gazing affectedly from the rooftop. It was a few seconds before Harry realized that what he was seeing, silhouetted against the golden moon and growing larger every moment, was a large, strangely lopsided creature. It was flapping in Harry's direction. He stood quite still, watching it sink lower and lower. For a split second, he hesitated, his hand on the window latch, wondering whether to slam it shut. But then the bizarre creature soared over one of the street lamp private drive, and Harry, realizing what it was, leapt aside. Through the window soared 3 owls. Two of them holding up the third, which appeared to be unconscious. They landed with a soft flump on Harry's bed. And the middle owl, which was large and gray, keeled right over and lay motionless. There was a large package tied to its leg. Harry recognized as an unconscious owl at once. His name was Errol. He belonged to the Weasley Errol. He belonged to the Weasley family. Harry dashed up to the bed at once, untied the cord around Errol's leg, took off his parcel, and then carried Errol to Hedwig's cage. Errol opened up blurry eyes, gave a feeble hoot of thanks, and began to gulp some water. Harry turned back to his remaining owl. One of them, large snowy female, was his own Hedwig. She, too, was carrying a parcel, and looking extremely pleased with herself. She gave Harry an effective snip up with her beak as he removed her burden, then flew across the room to join Errol. Harry didn't recognize the third owl, a handsome tawny one, but he knew at once where it had come from, because in addition to a third parcel, it was carrying a letter from bearing the Hogwarts crease. When Harry relieved this owl of his post, it ruffled its feather importantly, stretched its wing, and took off through the window into the night. Harry sat down in his bed, grabbed Errol's package, ripped off this brown paper, and discovered a present wrapped in gold, and his first ever birthday card. Finger trembling slightly, he opened the envelope. 2 pieces of paper fell out, a letter and a newspaper cutting. The cutting had clearly some of the wizarding newspaper, the Daily Prophet, because people in the black and white picture were moving. Harry picked up the cutting, smoothed it out, and read. Ministry of Magic employees scoop grand prize. Arthur Weasley, head of issue of Muggle Artifact Office at the Ministry of Magic, has won the annual Daily Prophet Grand Prize Galleon Draw. And delighted Mr. Weasley told the Daily Prophet, "We'll be able to spend the golden summer holiday in Egypt, where eldest son Bill works as a curse breaker for Gadget Wizarding Bank. The Weasley family will be spending a month in Egypt, returning for the start of the new school year to Hogwarts, which 5 of the Weasley children currently attended." Harry scanned the moving photograph, and a grin spread across his face as he saw all nine of the Weasley waving fiercely at him, standing in front of the large pyramid. Plump little Mrs. Weasley, tall, balding Mr. Weasley, 6 sons and 1 daughter. All their black and white picture didn't show it. With flaming red hair, right in the middle of the picture was Ron, tall and gandling, with his pet rat's cap on his shoulder and his arm around his little sister Ginny, who couldn't move if anyone who deserved to win a large pile of gold more than the Weasley, who was very nice and extremely poor. He Pick up wrong letter and fold it. Dear Harry, happy birthday. Look, I'm really sorry about that telephone call. I hope that Muggle didn't give you a hard time. I asked Dad and he reckoned I shouldn't have shouted. It's brilliant here in Egypt. Bill's taking us around all the time and you wouldn't believe the curse those old Egyptian wizards put on them. Mom wouldn't let Ginny come in the last one, and there were all those skeletons in there of Muggles who'd broken in and grown extra head and stuff. I couldn't believe it when Dad won the Daily Profit draw. 700 galleons. Most of it gone on this holiday, but they're going to buy me a new wand for the next year. I remember it only too well, the occasion when Ron old wanted snap. It had happened when the cars of the two of them had been flying to Hogwarts and crashed into a tree in the school ground. We'll be back about a week before term start, and we'll be going to go to London and get my wand and our new books. Any chance of meeting you there? Don't let the muggle get you down. Try and come to London, Ron. P.S. Percy Headboy. He's got a letter last week. Harry glanced back at his photograph. Percy was in his seventh and final years at Hogwarts, was looking particularly smug. He had pinned his head boy badge to the perched jauntily on top of his neat hair, his horn-rimmed glass flashing in the Egyptian sun. Harry now turned to his present and unwrapped it. Inside was what looked like a miniature glass spinning top. There was another note from Tom beneath it. Harry, this is a pocket snackoscope. If there's someone untrustworthy around, it's supposed to light up and spin. Bill will say it's rubbish sold for wizard tours and isn't reliable because it kept lighting up at dinner last night. But he didn't realize Fred and George had put a beetle in the soup. Bye, Ron. Harry put the pocket snackoscope on his bedside table, where it stood quite still, balanced on its point, reflecting the luminous hand of his clock. He looked at it happily for a few seconds, then picked up the parcel Hedwig had brought. Inside this, there was a wrapped present, a card, and a letter this time from Hermione. Dear Harry, Ron wrote to me and told me about all his phone call to your Uncle Vernon. I do hope you're all right. I'm on holiday in France at the moment, and I didn't know how I was going to send this to you. What if they open it and what if they would open it at custom? But then Hedwig turned up. I think she wanted to make sure you got something for her birthday for a change. I bought your present by Al order. There was an advertisement in the Daily Prophet. I've been getting it delivered. It's so good to keep up with what's going on in the wizarding world. Did you see the picture of Ron and his family a week ago? I bet he's learning low. I'm really jealous. The ancient Egyptian wizards were fascinating. There's something interesting local history of witchcraft there, too. I've rewritten my whole history magic essay to include some of the things I found out. I hope it's not too long. It's 2 roll of parchment more than Professor Ben asked for. Ron said he's going to be in London in the last week of holiday. Can you make it? Will your aunt and uncle let you come? I really hope you can. If not, I'll see you on Hogwarts Express on September 1st. Love from Hermione. P.S. Ron said he hit Percy head boy. I'll bet Percy really pleased. Ron doesn't seem too happy about it. Harry laughed again as he put Hermione's letter aside and picked up her present. It was very heavy. Knowing Hermione, he was sure it was a large book full of very difficult spell, but it wasn't. His heart gave a huge bound as he ripped back the paper across and saw a sleek black leather case with a silver sword stamp across it. Broomstick serving kit. Wow, Hermione, Harry whispered, unzipping the case to look inside. There was a large jar of Fleetwood High finished handle polish, a pair of gleaming silver-tailed twig clipper, a tiny brass compass to clip your book for broom for long journey, and a handbook of do-it-yourself broom care. Apart from his friend, the thing that Harry missed about the most about Hogwarts was Quidditch, the most popular sport in the magical world. Highly dangerous, very exciting, and playing on a broomstick. Harry happened to be a very good Quidditch player. He had been the youngest person in the century to pick up from one of the Hogwarts House team. One of Harry's most prized possession was his Nimbus 2000 racing broom. Harry put the leather case aside and picked up this last parcel. He recognized the untidy scrawl in his brown paper at once. This is from Hagrid. The Hogwarts keeper. He tore off the top layer of paper and glimpsed something green and leathery. He tore off the top layer of paper and glimpsed something green and leathery. But before he could unwrap it properly, the parcel gave a strange quiver, and whatever was inside snapped loudly, as though it had jaw. Harry froze. He knew that Hagrid would never send him anything dangerous on purpose. But then, Hagrid didn't have a normal person view of what was dangerous. Hagrid had been known to be to befriend giant spider, buy Vidges, three-headed dogs from man and pup, and sneak illegal dragon egg into his cabin. That is very interesting, really. Harry poked the parcel nervously. I wonder if his uncle and aunt wake up. Harry reached for a lamp on his bedside table, gripped it firmly in one hand, and raised over its head, ready to strike. Then he seized the rest of the wrapping paper in the other hand and pulled, and out fell a book. Harry just had enough time to research his hand book green cover and blast in the golden tile. The Monster Book of Monster, before it slipped into its edge and scuttled sideways along the bed like some weird crab. "Uh-oh," Harry muttered. The book toppled off his bed with a loud clunk and shuffled rapidly across the room. Harry followed stealthily. The book was hiding in the dark space under his bed, praying that the Dursley was still fast asleep. Harry got down on his hands and knees and reached toward it. Ouch! The book snapped shut on his hand and then flapped past him, still scuttling on his cover. Harry scrambled around, threw himself forward, and managed to flatten it. Uncle Vernon gave a loud, sleepy grunt in the room next door. Hedwig and Errol watched interestedly as Harry clamped a struggling book tightly in his arm, hurried off to his chest of drawers and pulled out a belt, which he buckled tightly around it. The monster book shuddered angrily, but could no longer flap and snap, so Harry threw it down on the bed and reached for Hagrid's card. "Dear Harry, happy birthday! Thank you. You might find this useful next year. Won't say no more to hear. Tell you when I see you. Hope the Muggle are treating you right. All the best, Hagrid." It struck Harry as enormous as Hagrid bought a biting book and would come in useful. But he put up Hagrid's card next to Ron and Hermione, grinning more broadly than ever. Now there was one only letter from Hogwarts left. Noticing that rather thicker than usual, Harry slid open the envelope, pulled out the first page of parchment within, and read, "Dear Mr. Potter, please note that the new school year will begin on September the 1st. The Hogwarts Express will leave the King Cross platform 9 3/4 at 11 o'clock. Third years are permitted to visit the village of Hogsmeade a certain weekend. Please give the enclosed permission form to your parents or guardian to sign it. A list of books for your next year's enclosed. Yours sincerely, Professor Minerva McGonagall." Deputy Headmistress. Harry pulled out the Hogsmeade permission form and looked. As it and no longer grinning, it would be wonderful to visit Hogsmeade weekend. He knew it was entirely Wizarding Village, and he never set foot there. But how on earth was he going to persuade Uncle Vernon or Aunt Petunia to sign the form? He looked over the alarm clock. It was now 2 o'clock in the morning. Deciding that Harry got about the Hogsmeade form when he woke up, Harry got back in his bed and reached up to cross off another day on the chart he made for himself, counting down the day left until his return to Hogwarts. Then he took off his grass and lay down, eyes open, facing his 3rd birthday card. Extremely unusual though he was at that moment, Harry Potter just felt like everyone else, glad for the first time in his life that it was his birthday.